Hello, I'm Kade and welcome to the third video in my Starfield Shipbuilding series. And for this one we're going to be looking at how you can make yourself a perfect interior without any issues and with just a single stairway throughout of it, which I think is really cool, and it doesn't matter what bridge you use or how tall your ship is, it will just work. So how do we do that? Well, it's very simple. We want to avoid conflict, and by avoiding conflict, what I mean is we want to tell the game there's a doorway here. This is your only choice. And to do that, we're needing to be using a couple of smart habitation modules, and we're going to be making use of the ability to stack our decks. And by stacking the decks, what I mean is if you look in here right now, from left to right, we're going deck 1, deck 2, deck 3, deck 4. It doesn't look all that special from this angle. But then if we're looking from the top, it suddenly looks a little bit different, because you will notice that this deck specifically is really tiny. There's almost nothing there. And that is where our deck stacking comes in, because that allows us to avoid the vertical conflict. So that means that the game, when it is looking at this, needs to look, okay, how am I going to get you from my docking collar to the bridge or from the landing bay to the bridge? Well, what it is going to do is there are companion ways here. One here, one here, one here, one here, and these are all stacked on top of each other. So they will make, a lovely little tower all the way from deck 1 all the way up to deck 4. And it is the only place where the game can see where it can transfer you between decks. So what is it going to do? It is going to put a stairway in these companion ways. So from deck 1 all the way up to the docking collar, there's one stairway in your entire ship, because that is the only place where the game can put a stairway. So it has to put a stairway in those corridors, and that's it. So that is how you get yourself from all of the decks to all the other decks. There is only one stairway. So that means we are already avoiding a lot of our conflict areas. Now, in order to avoid those vertical conflict areas, that's why this deck is so small. It doesn't put a stairway in these modules because I have to think of some limitations, but I haven't seen them do that any. So it puts it in here. And then, of course, if you would put like a habitation module on here, it would conflict with this, and then the game is going to try to do funny things. However, because deck 2 sits in between these two decks, there is actually no vertical contact between these modules and these modules, because there's empty space in between there. No conflict. And you see that we do the same thing when it comes to our horizontal layout. So here we're telling it, like, I want everything to form to go towards this central stairway section. That's the idea behind the design. Like, if you ever get lost in this ship, the moment you see the stairs, you know where you are. And it's really hard to get lost because there's no circular, there cannot have circular paths, but you cannot have weird structural paths because there is only one way the game can route you. So it puts you through here, through this central portion, and from here you can go to this left area, to the right area, to the front area, to the aft area, and that's it. You cannot connect these in any other place. That's the moment when things go wrong. So all of the connections for your interior have to be made through this point here. Now, do you need to use then these specific hab modules? No, not at all. If you wanted to put a 2x3 here, you put a 2x3 here. It doesn't matter. As long as they don't do this, it will work. So as long as it does this, it is fine. If they do, for example, come on. Oh yeah, that one doesn't work here because I'm in Shroudy. So say, for example, you do this, that's also completely fine. It will just make a door here somewhere and it will go into there. No problem at all. It will just work. The only place where we cannot add extra head modules is in our betweener decks. So these are a sub deck, so to speak. Here is the only other modules that you can place here, as far as I've found out. We're using these hab spines in order to make sure that we don't have any conflict with top modules down there. And that's it. So these are your sub decks. Here you cannot play around with them. They just need to be functional. And maybe if you use another bridge that you connect to here, you don't have a bridge here, you may just delete all of this because you don't need it. Then you go back to a full-on deck, and again we are collecting everything, of course, in this companion way. Then we can go into the back in a bunch of modules. I've got like living quarters and then flanked by 2 birds on either side. And then in the front through the spines, very important, because otherwise you create conflict, into a 2x1 flanked by 1x1s and in my case flanked by 2x2s, but again, if you wanted something different here, it is completely fine, as long as it doesn't connect to those back modules. The moment you try and connect this and this together, it will break again. So you cannot connect them. That will cause a conflict area. So we are avoiding those things. We're telling the game the only way, because it doesn't recognize that you can move here, so the only way to get from here to anywhere else in the ship is to go through here and enter this corridor section. That is your only choice. There is no other alternative. Now, say if you wanted to connect into the rear of these, you could do that by simply taking this one, moving it here, and moving that one back. Because as you can see here, we still don't have any conflict. What you can't do is this. That will break it again, because now the game is like, hey, there's a circular pathway, and it will try to do silly things for you. You don't want that. So a choice is either something like this, or something like this, as long as it doesn't connect. So you can go very much wider here if you wanted to. You can go even forward, so if you wanted to, that's not a problem, as long as you don't connect things to each other. So if you wanted to go forwards here, you would have to do something like this. Perhaps that would could give you an option here that would work. So this could cause a little bit of a conflict, but generally you're working more towards the rear because a bit of the sleeker lines here anyway. But that's the key here for building your interiors, avoiding those conflict areas. So there's no way for the game to make any other pathways. It has to follow the one that you assign it, almost, so to speak, because there is no other option. And that's the only way you can make the interiors conform to exactly how you want them to be, by giving the game no other alternative than to follow your instructions. So yeah, that's how you make yourself a absolutely perfect interior. If you want to replicate this one specifically, like, you can just take a look at it. Like I said, it doesn't matter which modules you use at all here. So manufacturer, whatever they do, it doesn't matter. So just choose whatever you want. It's a very simple way to start with. And as I said, you can extend it more to the sides or to the rear very easily, as long as you keep in mind only one potential corridor path to these things. Everything needs to guide back into this central spine area here. So with that all said, I'll show you how this particular interior looks, so you can have a feel for the layout, and then you can start building your own ships with it. Yes, we are not going to modify it, because of course I put some landing gear in it. Yeah, and Evershaw likes to stand behind this plant here. I think he's overworked or something. Poor guy. Let's enter. And of course, being a dock enter, we start at deck 4. So this is the frontier, so I keep the frontier hat because this is a unique place. And I kind of like it, so put it here as a captain's quarters. Then if we go down, we enter, of course, the first of our main decks, deck 3. So over here, through those spines, we go to the bridge. And then in the back here, we have those habitation areas. So this was the living place, and then we have habs on either side. But again, whatever modules you want to fit here, fit whatever you like. It will not cause any issues. It may just put like a door there and maybe then a door there, but the layout will still be very logical. Then if we go up here, we go through here, and we enter this 2x1 module here, which was flanked by those 1x1s. And then I have those 2x2s here in my case. And that's the same on either side. Again, what module you want to put there, entirely your choice. It doesn't matter. That's the cool thing about this particular layout. And we go up here, we have a bridge. Of course, I still think this is one of the coolest looking bridges, hence I use it. We can go down here as well. Back through the spines, we have another 2x2 module here. I believe this is a hab of sorts. And we enter the main central stairway place. We can go back all the way down to deck 1. Looking towards the front here again, we have the armory, and then another spine module here, which acts for me like an airlock place. And then of course finally we have the landing bay area. And we go back into our corridor section here, and we have a 3x1 there. these sideways spines, and then we have a lengthwise a whole bunch of stuff here. I use X1 modules here, but you could also use X2 modules here without any issue. Again, the only way they connect to the center of the ship is this particular area, and that allows the interior to work and only follow your direction in a very logical way. It also means that if you're playing on the ship, you never really get lost because you know wherever you are. There's only one way to go, really. And if you ever really do wonder, like, I put 5 engineering bays on my ship, in which one am I? You just look for the stairs. There's only one staircase in this entire ship, and once you know that, you're like, okay, I see stairs, I can go here, and I can literally just look. Oh, I am on deck 1 because I can see deck 2, deck 3, and deck 4 on top of me. I know where I am. So, I hope this will be very useful for you when you're building your own ships in Starfield, and I hope this will especially just ease off all of the frustrations that you can have when trying to make interior spaces. And with that said, I would like to thank you so much for watching, and next time I will be making a full ship around this particular interior, and I'll show you that one. Probably going to be, I think, a bit of like a smuggler, like a large smuggling ship or something like that. I kind of want to go with that direction, but we'll see what I do with when that video goes up. For now though, I've been Kade, goodbye.